Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we're going to walk through something extremely important, something that completely explains why Darth Dawkins does not, and more importantly, cannot, critique any of my videos without abandoning the very principles of his own worldview. This video is about what logically follows from Darth's own stated rules, his own definitions, his own requirements, and his own method of determining intelligibility. Once you understand these principles, the conclusion becomes unavoidable. Darth's own system makes it impossible for him to critique my videos without contradicting himself. We're going to break this down into three major reasons. Let's get into it. 1. Internal incoherence. His worldview collapses before it starts. Before Darth can critique anything I say in my videos, he needs a functioning worldview that grounds intelligibility. This is his claim, repeatedly. Only the Christian God, as he defines it, can serve as the necessary precondition of intelligibility. But here's the problem, and it's a devastating one. Darth's own definition of God is incomplete, inconsistent, and self-contradictory. His list of essential divine attributes now stretches to 17, yet he omits key attributes that his own theological tradition requires, such as God being the creator from eternity past, or God possessing eternal sovereignty over all facts. When even one essential property is missing, the God he claims is ultimate can no longer be ultimate. This isn't my standard. This is Darth's standard. If God lacks even one essential property, then he is not ultimate, he is not perfect, he is not necessary, he cannot ground possibility, impossibility, or intelligibility. Therefore, by Darth's own rules, his worldview is unintelligible before he opens his mouth. And if his worldview cannot ground intelligibility, then it cannot critique anything. Not my videos, not atheism, not anyone's worldview. This is the first reason he cannot critique my videos. 2. Methodological dependence. His critique process has a built-in failure point. Darth's method is not neutral. He repeatedly insists that the Christian worldview must be presupposed before any facts, logic, or intelligibility can be evaluated. That means Darth cannot critique content from the outside. He must perform critique from inside his system, using his definitions, his standards, and his theology. But as we just saw in Section 1, his system is internally incoherent. So even before we discuss anything about my content, Darth's method fails because he insists that you must use a worldview that cannot even ground itself. This means he can't use logic unless his God provides it. But he can't establish his God because his own definition of God is defective. Therefore, he cannot use logic to critique any video. This is not my problem, it's his. Thus, on purely methodological grounds, he cannot critique my videos without borrowing outside of his worldview, which he says is forbidden. 3. Identity precondition. Darth cannot critique anything I say until he identifies my category. This is the part most people overlook, and it's crucial. Darth Dawkins explicitly states that before he can critique anything a person says, he must first determine, are you an atheist? Because according to him, his entire critique must be targeted toward either the unbeliever who denies the Christian God or the theist who allegedly borrows from the Christian God inconsistently. But Darth cannot critique any argument until he knows who he is talking to, what category the person belongs to. And this is where the problem becomes fatal for him. He cannot determine my category. My videos are structured in such a way that I make internal critiques. I analyze from within his own worldview. I don't declare myself as an atheist or a theist. I can argue from multiple epistemic stances depending on the point being made. This places Darth in a double bind. If he treats me as an atheist, he must use arguments that presuppose I'm denying God. If he treats me as a theist, he must use arguments that presuppose I affirm God. If he can't decide, he can't launch a critique. And here's the key. Darth himself openly describes this exact restriction. Let me provide you with a direct quote from Darth Dawkins, word for word.
Right. Yeah. This is the depravity of the people that you're opposing. What you need to nail down first is that when you talk with them, you need to say, "Are you an atheist?" Mm-hmm. Okay. So what they will do is they will concoct anything in their mind to avoid that the God of the Bible is necessary, and then they try to imitate. Well, first of all, okay, you need the entire property set of the Christian God ontologically for intelligibility. That includes that God is triune. You see, they're not very good theologians and they're not very good philosophers, because had they understood the issue, they have such a superficial understanding, they would realize that what they're concocting cannot work. You cannot imitate the Christian God. It is not possible, because you are going to have to leave out one or more distinctive properties of the Christian God. And if you leave one of them out, for example, if you leave out the fact that God is triune and he has a salvific plan that he has progressively revealed throughout human history, you're not going to have ontological intelligibility. So
This quote confirms everything. He cannot proceed without first categorizing the person. He admits that missing even one divine property collapses intelligibility. He insists that critics cannot imitate his God, yet he himself leaves essential attributes out. Darth's own quote seals his inability to critique. If he cannot determine my category, his method prohibits him from moving forward. If he moves forward anyway, he violates his own rules. If he attempts critique without resolving his worldview issues, he violates his own standards of intelligibility. He is stuck by his own principles. Closing. So, when we put all of this together, we get a clear and unavoidable conclusion. Darth Dawkins cannot critique my videos without contradicting the core principles of his own worldview. He cannot do it because his worldview collapses internally due to an incomplete and inconsistent definition of God. His methodology requires a functioning worldview to perform critique, which he cannot supply. His own rules demand that he identify the worldview category of the person before addressing their arguments, and in my case, he cannot do that. These three issues are not external attacks. They are Darth's own premises, his own claims, his own standards, and they logically prevent him from evaluating my content without abandoning the very system he claims to be defending. Thank you for watching. If you found this breakdown helpful, please like, subscribe, and share this video.